Tarumbeta italia katika anga
like this.
Hatutoroki leo. Zima hiyo kitu, mkutano iendelee. Zima hiyo kitu, mkutano iendelee.
IKONINI. So history ya whatever happened over the weekend, hizo masai za Kakamega, is still sparking debate, and this of course in a combine and what had happened like a week earlier, masai za Kitengela, where there were public rallies, na kwa hizi public rallies za opposition kuna vile like tear gas was thrown. So Murkomen, one thing I have to say is I respect how Murkomen is sticking by his word. Najua, and he's sticking by his word. We all know that it's a bullshit story, lakini umseme amwajua achili.
In his response to a myriad questions on the rising cases of goonism and political intolerance in the country,
just to capture a few,
Interior National Administration Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen laid the blame squarely on politicians' doorstep, saying they are responsible for the intolerance and sharp rise in attacks on political rallies.
Some gangs are properly and fully utilized by politicians, 100%. If you saw some of the challenges we had in Kisii this weekend, courtesy of political activities in that area, you will see that both those who are campaigning and their competitors are mobilizing young people, including some of them have unique uniforms.
Nasikia story ya so you're the government, and as the government, if you have this information, then why are you not acting on it? Especially if the people themselves are blaming the government and saying that it's the government that's committing these crimes and the government that's letting goons do whatever they want to do. Then natokea kamsa wa gava natuambia like, hii ni wale ma politicians walikuwa na campaign, then do something about it.
In light with the political side they support.
The CS was responding to questions by members of the Senate on the killing of 2 people in Kitengela and Kakamega during Linda Mwananchi rallies, defended the security agencies of any wrongdoing.
Because those who are organizing, Madam Speaker, are in both sides of the political divide. They are in different level of political campaign, and eventually they say, why did the police fire a bullet, or why did the police kill somebody? But had we not organized the goons to come to our meetings, we could not have that situation. Thank you.
Had we not organized goons? Ndio kitu moja nikatia gaji ya makarao wa Kenya, because we are told to that the CSs always put it like the police can never de-escalate a situation. They always have to push it to the next level. Na hii ni ile kitu waga like interesting. Unachikigula tukiwachigize ma movies za makarao wa states. Najua makarao wa states ukaga like very reasonable people until you find out that they can never de-escalate any situation. Inakuwaga tu kidogo pap mtu ashapigwa bullet. But uko at least au jitetea wanasema that people there walk around armed. So inakuwaga like a decision you have to make in a split second. In Kenya, no, like a lot of people who are killed are unarmed. Like basically the 2 people who died, the person ulali dedi Kakamega na ulali dedi Kitengela, were both unarmed. So how can you try to justify that? Because that's what Murkomen are trying to do. That kama ama goons angekuwa nini, alafu wasa walishutiwa, there is no evidence that they were goons. Najua ilikuwa just some random people who'd gone to like a rally, they were excited, and in the process, of course, makara wa Kenya wanapenda kushoot. Yeah, 2 people died.
Thank you.
This comes as the CS also lifted the lead on the shocking number of mob justice cases in the country, disclosing that 579 people were killed between January last year to date, with 266 injuries reported from 845 cases. Kiambu County leads with 58 fatalities, followed by Nairobi County with 55, Kisumu 36, and Embu with 33 cases.
History ya mob justice nazataka kujua. Kakawe ni mwizi Nairobi. Watch news. Cause nachekio Kiambu 58 cases, Nairobi 55, Kisumu 36, Embu 33. Hii ni mob justice. And of course Nairobi kulikuwa na the sad case, ile ilikuwa ni kuna boy alikuwa naibiwa na wamadha wawili. Alafu wa mamadha vile alikatalia simu yake, au wenyewe akascream mwizi. Alafu wa Kenya juu tunakuwaga full of shit, tukakuja tukadedisha tu mse bila kutry kufind out like what was happening. Na niko sure akidedishwa alikuwa anaambia say, hii ni phone yangu jo, acheni hata nifungue muone ni phone yangu. But sasa this is the situation that we have. And in this situation, mseka mimi of course, siku za Moi nilionaga story ya mob justice. Mupatianaga story flani ile nishaonaga mse flani light skin. I never forgotten that. Nikiwa mtoi, mse alikuwa ameiba hapo around Jack and Jill, when Jack and Jill used to be a supermarket. I don't think it exists nowadays. And kile mse alifanyiwa, never forgotten as a kid. Like damn, mse alikuwa ameturn. Try kuimagine wewe ni light skin alafu umejaa damu, you turn some funny color. I remember ilikuwa gani mbaya sana. And from day one nimekuwa nikijua that this is that mob justice ish. It's sad that years later the same ish is happening. So this is a failure on both sides. A failure on the justice system, because the justice system has to be the one to show people that you can't take the law into your hands. And it's also a failure on people learning that that's not the career path you want. It's not. Like ukipatikana, the consequences are never worth the crime. Kenya ukitaka kuiba, iba kama politicians. Unaiba bilioni, wase kadhaa innocent wanaenda na dedi kwa Gusii, alafu wa Kenya na kuklapia. Otherwise, ukiiba simu, uingie kwa nyumba ya mtu, hapo utaumia bure. But ukitaka kuiba vizuri, unaiba. Kenyans watakumeka either the president, ama watakumeka governor, ama watakumeka an MP, alafu they'll be clapping for you. And every time mtu amekuita mwizi, they'll blame tribalism and say that person is a tribalist, that's why hakupendi. Kama sipo, they'll go as far as saying we ni mwizi wao. Then after waseme we ni mwizi wao, kisha kuwa president, watakuwa hapo wanazusha wakisema it's time to remove you in 2 days. Unajua, let's suspend the constitution. Why? Because mwizi wao mwa disappoint. So Kenya wanakuorganiza upumbavu. But ukiamua ni kuiba, hii raya za kawaida ya kugrab vitu katikati ya tao. Wanajo from Kiambu to Embu. Neza try kuimagine the cojones that it takes kutry kuwa mwizi Kisumu jo. Raya zinarushaga mawe jo. Inasikia tu erekidi. Okay, tuendelee.
Introduce yourself.
This as the Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja also blamed the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions for the delay in prosecuting politicians engaged in inflammatory statements and political violence.
The issues of investigations where the DPP, direct certain areas to be investigating.
Hii microphone, niko sure ilikuwa procured. Ilikuwa procured for what? 20 shillings. Skevely in a sound. You can't even understand what he's saying. This is supposed to be the police post. You're supposed to be hearing what he's saying, but damn.
To be investigating. The issue of autonomy is also very, very important, whereby the police can be able to exercise its powers.
Kanja was appearing before the Senate Standing Committee on National Cohesion, Equal Opportunity and Regional Integration.
Okay, so of course, watasema hizo like, oh, the politicians are busy fanning violence, they are busy inciting Kenyans, but no action is ever taken. So we are left in the same situation whereby these people can continue doing whatever they want to do. But of course, elections go next year, but we are a third world country, so that means that there's no work to be done. Inakuwaga like work for half the time, then use the other half just to campaign. So of course, Ruto amekuwa campaign full time. And pia nilicheki naitwa Kindiki pia na campaign full time, na inabidi wasa opposition wabaki wamecounter. And one of the things that one of the narratives that the president is pushing is wasa opposition wako no agenda, na of course wakisikia hivyo wanasema ekonene kaende.
Competitors, they neither have a track record for anything they have done in the past.
President William Ruto's latest barbs at the opposition have been hard-hitting, dismissing their push to unseat him, insisting they lack both a development track record and the political muscle to convince voters.
Nimesikia Kasongo akisema.
But the opposition has hit back, branding the president's record as troubling and accusing him of undoing previous gains.
It's so interesting how, this is a... like a mainstream media station, and wakituchezea ile teaser juu ya Ruto, nasikia nimesikia Kasongo akisema, like alafu si wote kaa Kenya tunajua okay Kasongo, we know who Kasongo is. It's super interesting.
You are the only president since independence umetoa amri vijana wapigwe risasi kwa mguu. We'll judge you by that record. The other record uko nayo William Ruto. Kazi ilifanywa na Mwai Kibaki ya masomo ya bure ya primary school umeharibu na mwaka 3. That is your record. Kazi ya Linda Maa ililetwa na Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ya kusaidia wamama umeharibu. That is your record.
The united opposition has also opposed plans to sell stakes in Kenyan companies, warning against what they term reckless privatization.
History of privatization is one of those, like only watch video nilidu jana samani juzi asubuhi. I talked about that and the question was, will this guy ever get prosecuted for this? Like he's acting in a way like anauza Safaricom, anauza Kenya Pipeline, and you know that him and his cronies are buying those shares at najua like throwaway prices. That's what they're doing because kuna kitu moja ile siku record, but saizi ukitumia Lang'ata Road you'll find this. Ukitaka kujua, hey, ukisikiaga hiyo ujinga ati will be Singapore, half of the road ya Lang'ata Road siku hizi inakuwaga ni gari zimepark juu zimekosa parking Weston. Yes, that's what's happening. Like half of the road. Alafu mainstream media, the one that can make this guy stop this nonsense, do not talk about this. Like half of the freaking road, like one lane imechukuliwa. Lane ya kuenda Tao ya Lang'ata waga imechukuliwa na gari zimepakiwa juu zinaingia Weston. Then nasikia will be Singapore. Singapore Marmeru. Cause Singapore hakuna ujinga kayo. Singapore, just because you're the president of Singapore does not mean that you can break rules. That's the difference between those countries. Na nikogani kila mtu iko equal. Kumbuka nani umsanito nani Sifuna kibonga juu the rule of law. That's the nonsense we are talking about, like half the road. But Singapore,
M-Pesa Safaricom ni kampuni ya Kenya. Hapa ile pesa ambayo inasambazwa Kenya nzima, it is in billions kila siku. Kwa hivyo nasema lazima wananchi wahusishwe.
After accusing Kisii Governor Simba Arati of disrupting their rallies, the leaders are asking him to switch allegiance and join former Interior CS Fred Matiang'i's camp.
Na sasa bwana Arati sisi tumemwambia arudi asalimu amri afanye kazi na huyu Matiang'i. Sawa sawa? Lakini asiporudi, simuko na vijana wanaweza fanya hiyo kazi.
Ogembo nimwambia tafuta wake na Simba Arati weka kwa mfuko. Kiaka kila mtu kwa mfuko. Sina muda hiyo. Ili jamii iongee na sauti moja.
Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has also sustained his criticism of Kipsigi's leaders, accusing them of failing to stand up to President Ruto, alleging he has neglected development in the region.
Hawa watu ya Kasongo, viongozi ya Kipsigis, wanalia kama panya imeshikwa na mtego. Na mimi nimekuwa hapo tu dakika 10 peke yake. Mimi naambia nyinyi viongozi ya Kipsigis, mumeumiza hao siku mingi. Hawana barabara, hawana maji, hawana stima, hawana chochote.
hiyo kitu inakuwaga interesting sana. Like vile majuzi tulicheki Mr. Beast akikuja kutengeneza makeja Bomet. This is what I normally talk about positive ethnicity and negative ethnicity. Like ethnicity ya Kenya inasaidiaga nothing. Because ukiangaliaga vile nilikuwa nasema, like mimi nimse nilikuwa na watchigi The Daily Show sana. Na kwa The Daily Show ya like John Stewart nakumbuka originally alikuwa anapendaga kusema American politics is very tribal. Na tribe in America of course inamaanisha race. And kitu moja waga mtu wanaga from the outside ukiangalia America ni the fact that kuwa white ukujaga na privileges kadhaa. Mzati mse white anapigana na karao pa alafu at some point atakuwa arrested. But mse black hata akijaribu tu ya pa ashapigwa risasi zake. Kuna hata story ya dem fulani karao aliingia the wrong apartment, kabaki amepata mwizi kwa keja yake, which was a black guy chilling in his own house, na kabaki amempiga risasi. So unachiki huko kuna vile hiyo tribalism yao, which is race, it plays a certain role. Najua at least it protects you from something. But hii yetu ile like Bomet, unaangalia Bomet unapata wasana lala njaa, hakuna chuo, watu hiyo wako na nini, alafu the same people watafight ya Ruto design nyingine. Alafu usikue surprise vile nimekwambia, like ukipita na hii kitu moja naweza sema, jo kawe ni mse unaishi Lang'ata, maybe unaweza niduia hii favor. I don't know kama I'll get that chance again. I don't know why. I think ni juu ile nishtua, so siku na time ya kurecord. But angalia hiyo lane moja ya kuenda Tao, ukiwa hapo mbele ya Weston utapata tu magari zimepark hapo. So yeah, kauneza kukitoka hapo, chukua video alafu share ndio raya zione kile namaanisha juu ya impunity iko kwa hii country. Na utapata wasi wako hapo, kuna time nilikuwa nasikia gawa wanatoka Kisii, not Kisii, Kericho County na kina Bomet County wanakuja ku have meetings hapo. Just so that the president can make money. For this guy, Kenya is just, Kenya is just a business. It's not anything. So everything that he talks, it's pure bullshit. Because if you can do that and you're the president, and we can actually see, we live in the era of smartphones. So we can actually see, and saizi hata vile nimeambia wase hivyo, niko sure itachukua more than 2 ama 3 days before msani tumie nini. So nacheki gile namba yangu jo, nitumie video hapo. 1 lane imechukuliwa jo. The level of impunity, man. Damn, living in a shithole.
Rais Uhuru Kenyatta sio mtoto na Rais Uhuru Kenyatta sio mtu wa ovyo ovyo kutukana na watu bure kama hao. Na mtaka president era mwenye cheka vile. Some of these people insulting the president, we don't even actually know what positions they occupy in this society. Criminals, thugs.
The united opposition has wrapped up its 3-day tour of the Gusii region, with much of its charm offensive focused on rallying support for Fred Matiang'i in his home turf.
Okay, so yeah, uko na hiyo vile the united opposition wanafanya kile wanafanya, but if there is one thing ule like ni a lone soldier ikikam to story, of course imekuwa ni Sifuna. Sifuna amekuwa like the sort of guy who's in the front line, na so far amekuwa kidu like a lot of inaitwa nini, like a lot of meetings here and there, and I have to say that yeah, I think maybe this is the time kumtafuta, because sisi kama IKONINI, of course kuna time tuko tunatry kumtafuta na kumpata, ilikuwa a little bit hard, but I'm starting to think maybe, just maybe, this is the time. And you come to Sifuna, one of the things that's happening is kuna vile of course alikuwa thrown out of ODM in quotes, but wasiwa kabaki ameenda kotini, na wasiwa ODM saizi wanajitetea wanasema that they didn't actually throw him out. He was just told to step aside, and apart from stepping aside, he was also told that he does not speak for the party, and anything that he's saying is actually just his individual like views. So of course Sifuna alibaki ameishia kotini, na ase wamedismiss hiyo story, walienda kotini, and that was still their defense, that he's not been thrown out, he's just and also they even went as far as telling him, why didn't he use the internal party resolution mechanism? Nakumbuka ile ujinga tuko tunasikiaga, like if you have a problem, just go to the court. Go to the court. Do not protest. Just go to the court. Of course, kuna kuagana the universal understanding that anyone who tells you to go to court is someone who knows that the court system won't help you with anything. Right now, if I was to decide to go to court, because vile nimetoka kuteta that part of the lane ya Lang'ata imechukuliwa na Ruto, so he's land grabbing now the road, literally, just for his business. Damn, man. This shit tole, man. Damn, I'm been losing my train of thought. Wacha tusikize vile history ya nini ODM versus Sifuna inaenda.
Only last week, the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal issued orders blocking the removal of Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna as the ODM Secretary General. And just few days before the hearing of the matter, Oburu-led faction have filed a response challenging the decision. In an affidavit filed by Halima Daro, ODM NEC member representing special interest groups, the party wants Sifuna's complaint dismissed. According to the affidavit, the party argues that pursuant to Section 42 of the Political Parties Act, the complaint should have been subjected to internal dispute resolution mechanisms under the auspices of the first respondent's party constitution prior to moving to this tribunal.
Okay, so mechekio story ya internal dispute resolution. So these people who are openly against Sifuna, who openly want to throw Sifuna out, are now telling Sifuna, you know what, don't go to court, just come to us and we can internally resolve this dispute. Check the bullish that we hear.
Tribunal. ODM maintains that the NEC followed a constitutionally anchored internal process consistent with principles of natural justice and fair administrative action, and contends that the Secretary General approached the court before the disciplinary process could be initiated. In the court papers, Daro says the doctrine of exhaustion requires parties to exhaust available remedies before resorting to court action, and therefore this honorable tribunal has no jurisdiction to entertain this matter.
Of course, ile kitu ODM wanataka ile design wanasemaga that this thing has been overrun by events. That's why immediately they threw out in quotes Sifuna. You threw out in quotes. They waliseti ule Catherine hapo haraka haraka. So the whole thing is ndio by the time Sifuna na fight kitu yote itakuwa this thing has been overrun by events, and they'll keep pushing that. So history itakuwa enda kotini. Alafu koti za Kenya tunajuaga the judiciary is just one of those things where one minute you think they're independent, then the next minute they do some bullshit kama vile walifanya na NGCDF. So najua like what do you expect to happen here? I don't expect Sifuna to get any Nini. I think at the end of the day, ODM, which is now part of the government, is going to win this.
ODM now says Sifuna jammed the gun by taking the matter to court, saying before the NEC will issue the formal notice contemplated under Article 74(3) and trigger the structured internal dispute resolution mechanism of the party, Sifuna prematurely moved to court and obtained conservatory orders restraining the party from proceeding further.
Okay, and of course, talking of ODM, and like I've been seeing hizo, like I think there was another footage pia bado, and this footage ilikuwa ule dem ana embarrass Oburu, alikuwa amefanya ile bullshit yake aweka mawe. There was another footage where she was just there seated with him, I think akimuita sijui chali yake, and it's so cringy, man. Like it's one of those things, and I don't even blame Oburu. No, I don't blame Oburu, because for a very long time Kenyan politicians have known that all they need is a gimmick to get Kenyan votes. So you remember, like in the run-up to last year's elections, some 2022 elections, some of the last elections, that is, you'd see Ruto kama pigilia sneakers, hizi za kichinku, alafu amepigilia yellow na blue. He used to wear that cheap shit. As soon as he became president, Stefano Ricci chap, and that earned him a lot of votes. Najua, hiyo ilikuwa like siku za hatupangwingwi. So they know that. So saizi nafikiria they think the same formula works. So itakuwa like, hey, ukibonga sheng alafu ukisema weka mawe, useme mbwekse, this youth will love you. And that's how they end up like embarrassing them there. So yuko hapo na do vitu zingine zile unashindwa like what kind of nonsense is this? And at the end of the day you also have to look at the Jaoko Oburus and be like, fuck, at what point are you supposed to tell your dad like, you know what, it's not worth it, man. The people will never accept you. Why are you doing this? You're already rich beyond, like 15 generations are taken care of. So what the hell? And I mean 15 generations.
This action effectively halted a process that was still in its formative stage, end quote. Daro told the PPDT in her affidavit that contrary to Sifuna's assertions, the NEC resolution was not self-executing. It remained subject to review, ratification, or further consideration by the National Governing Council NGC and the National Delegates Convention NDC in accordance with the party constitution.
So nacheki, they have to keep insisting on vitu kama the party constitution, because I think the key thing was just to tame this guy, because this guy was becoming too wild. And pia hizi vitu najua inakuwa gani, it's a political gamble where by trying to tame him, they ended up making him more popular. So right now if you go everywhere, kuna hiyo sisi ni Sifuna, mimi ndio Sifuna, you see now that whole movement. I don't think they expected that to happen. And right now you'll see like everything, one try to kujichocha na kujiambia that hii ni fire, itaisha haraka. Nacheki. Alafu pia, of course, ile sasa pia another thing ile nimecheki, ni online, kumekuwa na ile narrative ya, msee kama anaclaim anataka change, akijoin Gachagua inamaanisha hataki change, ama hataki kutuletea change. So yeah, but yeah, Sifuna right now is that guy to fight. And that's why unasikiza vitu kama like, let's use the party constitution.
Party says the complainant interrupted a lawful, layered and constitutionally compliant internal mechanism. David notes that it is therefore only proper, consistent with the doctrine of exhaustion and ripeness, and respectful of institutional autonomy, that this honorable tribunal declines to assume jurisdiction at this premature stage and instead refers the matter back to the party organs. It further states that to do otherwise will be to undermine the very framework that the law mandates be respected and exhausted before external adjudication is invoked.
So, yeah, of course, tukibonga juu story ya Sifuna, another thing we have to ask ourselves is, what does Sifuna want? Because is it worth kuendelea kusema hiyo mimi ni kiranja ya walio wachache bunge, whatever, bunge la Senate, is it worth it? Because these people don't want you. And the party that you're fighting for also is not the same party that existed before October 25th, October 15th, that is. After October 15th, that party lost what made it what it was. So it means like right now, fighting for that is something that I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think that it's worth it, nacheki. But yeah. EKONINI, najua mwaka ni mpya lakini injili ni ile ile LemFi. So kama uko US, uko UK, uko Canada ama uko the UAE na unatry kutuma do Kenya, baki umechangamka, ingia LemFi, utabaki umepata the most competitive rates. Lakini apart from that, on your first transaction ya $100 or more, utapata $20 sign up reward. So unangoja nini? Baki umechangamka, chap chap, ingia LemFi. LemFi, international payments for everyone. EKONINI. So but another thing is kulikuwa nanis vile nimesema Sifuna amekuwa kidu a lot of interviews, and there was this very interesting clip that was going around, because this clip is of course an address stories are rigging. So kumekuwa na the fears of, is there going to be rigging this year, yani next year, that is. And there are people who will dismiss it like it's impossible, but then we look at what happened in Tanzania where there was rigging, and then after rigging there was a lot of murders. And what happened? The people complained, then the people went back. That's what happens. Kenya, it happened. Kuna kusahau hiyo story that hapa Kenya ili happen, and Sifuna decided to remind people that it happened in Kenya, but now this time he's saying confidently that it can't happen again. Am I that 100% sure it can't happen again? I don't think, when like African leaders' appetite for blood, especially kikam to keeping power, to me nakuaga ridiculous. Najua, like that's the reason why I was so surprised to see the Botswana president calling them out. Cause damn. Okay, tusikize Sifuna.
This is not 1980. This is not 1980. Ukianguka kura, unaanguka tu kura, unaenda nyumbani. Hakuna mahali utakatalia. Unakatalia wapi? This is not 2007, my friend. This is not 2007 where somebody can actually lose elections and impose themselves on the people.
Chikiwa, yeah, 2007, everyone likes running away from it. People bring up shit like, oh, the Kriegler Commission. Kriegler had to be diplomatic. Otherwise, it was a rigged election. And to me, I always say that's the day that democracy died in Kenya. And because 2002, democracy was born. 2005, democracy kafika teenagehood. And just before ifike adulthood, 2007 ikadedi. And since that, that's the reason why we need 63 billion to do an election. That's part of Kibaki's legacy. Najua, that's part of his legacy. He's the reason why we waste so much money during elections. Otherwise, kitambo elections ilikuwaga simple. Like 2002, by saa sita usiku we knew who had won. 2007, of course, the same thing. People went to sleep knowing, the same thing. 2005, chungwa versus banana. We knew by saa sita usiku. 2007, the same. But then the whole Tharakanithi bullshit happened. And what happened? Since then, ikabidi, we have to swearing in, lazima happen daytime. Lazima kuwe na budget ya swearing in. Lazima kuwe na Supreme Court. Lazima kuwe na Form 34A, Form 32B, Form blah, 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 blah. But dudes want to clean all that up. That for him to stay in power, he hakujaza city mortuary. He did all this nonsense. And that's the nonsense that made it possible for TZ to take it to the next level. Nacheki, UG, take it to the next level. But for us to look at TZ in like last year, the closest thing neza show ni hii ya Kenya. UG on the other hand, ni ile story ya mchikivile Rigathi Gachagua was saying that legacy ya Ruto ni kushutwa se miguu. Uganda was doing that in 2021. Walikuwa wanapiga watu miguu. So that one, Ruto got that from alipata hiyo from Museveni. But then Samia got whatever she did from Kibaki. She just took it to the next level. And that's one of the things that we always worry about, that next year, what will happen? Kwa the people who look at Kibaki through this perfect lens, they think next year nothing can happen. Hakuna kitu inaweza happen. Because hiyo haijai happen. Si Kriegler alisema haiku happen. But then kuna some of us who are there like, shit, if it can happen once, it can happen twice. And saizi umecheki ujinga IEBC may come up now. Wacha tutabonga juu ujinga IEBC. They are planning. There's something they are planning for next year and it's scary.
Ukianguka kura nyumbani. So mtu asitutishe hapa ati you will go and reinvent the 24-year presidency. There's nothing like that. The thing that guarantees re-election, as I have said, is you deliver on your promises, make the lives of Kenyans better. You will not have to fight with anybody. They will.
But your story here, trying to reinvent the 24-year presidency. Because this mother, they are trying to do that. Yeah. So that's why I keep saying, like, ukiangalia this amount of crimes that Ruto is committing, you're like, you can't commit all these crimes if you're planning to leave office. There has to be something. And it's that nonsense. Yeah, okay, wacha umse run. Okay, ashinde up to 2032, then tuseme, wacha to change. 5 years is not enough. Let's change it to 7 years. And then tutasema, now he can run for a fresh term. Alafu hiyo time tutakubali hata Uhuru pia run, lakini wacha let's run for, but we'll have the military, we have the police, so we can be able to get away with this one. So they'll try that nonsense. That's not something that's also beyond them.
We will put you back in office. But for as long as you continue with the way in which you are continuing, talking to people the way you want, insulting the public, threatening the public, a public that is very well informed on its rights, threatening to violate the constitution, ignoring constitutional principles.
Yeah, ignoring constitutional principles. So we'll see, man. But I don't know, man. Yeah. But talking of IEBC, these IEBC people are testing our patience. So jana washasema wananidio 63 billion. Alafu out of the 63 billion, kumbuka 1 billion itatumika for food. Then what happens now? Saizi wanataka kusema wanataka kuban phones kwa polling stations because it's your vote and it's your secret, which is nonsense. I'm entering that booth alone. Since I'm entering that booth alone, I can use my photo to take and how am I going to share it online? It's not like nitatokea hapo nje na niambia watu vile nimefanya. And what if nitokea hapo nje na niambia watu vile nimefanya? Like how does that change? Inakuwa nonsense. You have like easy developed countries where you'll have even someone campaigning kwa line wasi wakienda kuvote. Of course, Kenya, we can't do that. But to claim that you're going to ban phones. So what are we supposed to do on election day? Leave our phones at home? Like how is that supposed to happen? How is this supposed to work?
The IEBC has moved to ban phones in polling stations ahead of the by-elections on Thursday, February 26th. This comes after some people online have expressed interest in taking pictures while they vote or even who they are voting for. But IEBC imesema not anymore, banning mobile devices, saying this is in order to protect the secrecy and integrity of every vote.
What do you mean? No one is telling two people to enter the booth. It's one person entering the booth. If this one person enters the booth and they have their phone, nowadays we go with our phone everywhere. Kuna study ilifanyikana iko inasema that phones are so dirty. Najua, like sisi chukua vile chukua simu, chukua simu yako alafu ubaki umeiuma. Till ubaki umefanya zile studies inasemekana that phones are dirtier than a toilet seat. That's why, because we use our phones everywhere. Everywhere you go, kuna unasalimia mkono ya raya fulani umetoka kujipanguza haga na go back to phone yako umeshikilia. So this is a very dirty device and we use it everywhere. And if we lose it for a split second, we lose our minds. So for you to turn around and tell us that we can't use our phones because you're trying to guard the safe, like the secrets of this is the nonsense that's going to make Umsanitwa Ethicon to lose Kenyans even before the election. Because all these points at sinister moves, because one of the things that's going to make the election next year ikuwe very clean ni phones. Because through phones, people can share information, and so this is what's going to make Nini have through phones tunazajua results even by saa 6 usiku. Yeah, because kumbuka IEBC normally has these places where hakunaga network kuchukuaga 3 days kabla ifike mpaka hata naita Kenya instead of Nairobi.
They argue that in the previous elections, sharing photos of marked ballots exposed voters to coercion, intimidation, and even vote buying. Over time, incidents within the body that oversees elections has eroded public trust. As we approach the 2027 election, the question that still lingers is, how will this body regain the public's trust?
Yes, how will they regain the public's trust? By not saying some bullshit like they are planning to ban mobile phones. That's the nonsense that they need to snap out of. And we have bigger problems than kutuambia that you're trying to safeguard the integrity of the vote or some nonsense like that. But yeah, that's what we have, man. So yeah, kama kawa, of course, voting. I hope one of the things that we learn from the Ruto presidency, and one of the things that's going to be his legacy, is he's I think reduced the ignorance that used to exist even before the Gen Z protest. There was a lot of ignorance even during the Gen Z protest, and the ignorance was that easy politics in your economy. Easy politics in your economy. Remember that nonsense? So saizi I hope to may realize the way everything is political. Najua the reason why kama unatoka Lang'ata you have to use one less lane. That's politics for you. You chose a leader who Kenya is a business to. And since Kenya is a business to, right now, everyone has to kiss the ring. So how are they kissing the ring? They're kissing the ring through having to come to all the press conferences hapo Weston. Kumbuka jo, Weston was the same place kulikuwa na kipindupindu. Like raya zilipatanga cholera hapo, zikahara kuhara. Lakini bado jo, baada ya kuhara sasa wamechukua barabara. IKONINI.